welcome to the Well After Hours. I'm your host, Beverly Allen, and I'm so glad that you could join us today. I have a special guest that's going to help us put things in perspective with the way our economy is going and with people, being very anxious about their financial future. My special guest today is Dr. Nicole B. Simpson. Welcome, Nicole. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you've been real busy, and we're going to let you get going, but I just want to make a short introduction as to who you are so people know your qualifications, why we have you here today. Dr. Nicole B. Simpson is a certified financial planner and a securities practitioner. She is the CEO of Harvest Wealth Financial and has been in securities for 29 years plus. We're still counting. Welcome to the Well After Hours, Dr. Simpson. Thank you for being here.
It is a pleasure.
For our viewers, everything is really kind of discombobulated these times. The market is fluctuating, and even the saints are wondering, like, what are we going to do with our money? How do I handle this? People are on unemployment. What can you bring us up to date, kind of like financially? What's happening?
Well, I think what is going on right now is that coronavirus has literally brought not just America, but I think the entire world to its knees. And so I had been observing this since the tail end of last year, the beginning of January, from a financial perspective by observing what was going on in China. And so you understood that there were some rumblings of the economy in China shutting down because of this virus that no one had really paid much attention to or talked about. It became more elevated at that time when China began to discontinue manufacturing. And so when they began to shut down and quarantine in China, we knew that products and goods and services, or our manufacturing, was deteriorating and things were not coming into America. And so I think those people from the financial perspective were able to get some level of insight prior to it really hitting home for the United States of America. And we were able to see some level of volatility. I don't think things became as obvious in America until the tail end of February, at the beginning of March, because believe it or not, just a few short weeks ago, February 14th, 2020, Valentine's Day to be exact, we hit a market high. So America was still, thriving. The economy is fundamentally strong, and we found ourselves literally being impacted by this overnight. And that's because the virus had not been contained, and we must be transparent. China had not been absolutely forthcoming with their data and their information. The virus had not been contained, and so this particular virus began to spread to other countries, including America. And when we were impacted, we were devastated, and then we did a couple of missteps almost immediately. The first misstep that we did as a country is that we made this about an economic issue, and it was a health issue. And so if we would have dealt with, and when we deal with the underlying health issue, then we can look and turn toward where does the economy stand. So for those individuals that have been somewhat overwhelmed and nervous because we've seen the economy just literally tank overnight, the biggest advice that I would give to any individual at this point right now, and I've shared this with my clients as well, is that now is not the time to do anything. Now is not the time to make significant or major moves. I don't want to chastise anyone, but this is the benefit of working with an advisor, because when you're looking at the market, or you're looking at the economy, or your own financial position from day to day, instead of taking a long-term approach to it, you'll find yourself or your anxiety level at an all-time high at this particular season. But I want to encourage you, especially if you're under the age of 50, literally leave your 401k alone. Just put it away. Don't even look at it, because this is going to be emotionally painful. But one thing that I can say is that I've been studying the market, again, 29 years and counting, but I've studied it beforehand. We have always, 100% of the time to date, have recovered from economic downturns. And so I have personally been involved in 3 in my lifetime as an advisor. And I would suggest to individuals, I know it feels painful. Stop looking at your 401k and just allow yourself to focus on where it is you're standing right now, and perhaps look for opportunities that are forthcoming. Now, that's for individuals under the age of 50, around the age of 50. If you know you still have to work for the next 20 years, you too can take the same advice that I just gave for those individuals under the age of 50. The concern that I would have is someone that is looking to retire in the next few years, or they're concerned that their net worth feels as if it has gone down an average of 30%. That can be overwhelming. And the truth is this. If you've been working with advisors, I anticipate and hope that you've made concessions for that, because you do not need all of your money day one of retirement. And so anyone that is looking to retire within the next 3 to 5 years, the truth is that you should have made some level of provisions for the initial level of retirement, meaning that if you had a growth portfolio, you sort of transitioned from growth to growth in income, or taken into consideration that you do not want to risk that money that you have, because now you need your money to work for you and you may need to draw down from it. So all of those things are in consideration. And if you've not worked with anyone, I strongly suggest that you go and have conversation or dialogue with someone.
You know, just to go back where you were advising them not to touch their money, what about those persons who, unfortunately, didn't have not just their 401k, but money's put in the bank in reserve? Like I know you've always said, have, you know, at least 4
I say 3 to 6 months
of your
of
bills.
emergency cash.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so for those individuals that have 3 to 6 months worth of emergency cash, we hope that you don't have to tap into those reserves yet, but that's what they're there for. At this uneasy time, you may have to tap into those reserves because unemployment is at an all-time high. I mean, realistically speaking, we've seen 3.2 million applications that went in for unemployment, and quite honestly, that is just the tip of the iceberg. So many people are being laid off literally overnight, and so they're finding themselves in this place where I don't know where my income is coming from. But I will tell you that the Relief Act that was just signed is going to be extremely helpful for individuals that have to file for unemployment. So you may have to navigate between what it is that you've had in the bank, what it is that you're receiving from unemployment to get through these tumultuous times. But if you've had the reserves, this is what it's for. So do not stress about having to utilize the reserves, because there are individuals, unfortunately, that do not have the reserves. So I want to commend all of you that have listened and have put away 3 to 6 months worth of emergency cash. But do not, stress or be anxious about the fact that you need to tap into it now, because this is what we consider an emergency.
Wow. They were talking about, I forget exactly, there was about a check that the president is going to release for everybody, $1,200. Is that a one-time?
It is a one-time check, and I confess I'm very disappointed in what it is that they're looking to do. And so if anyone has ever followed me on Facebook, then they will understand why. Other countries have been just far more generous, and America is
Yes.
a wealthy country, and so we should have done more to protect the people overall. We unfortunately have a habit of protecting corporations and not protecting the people that work for the corporations. So the way that this particular check is going to work is that everyone that has been, that is employed, unemployed, any individuals that make under $75,000, you're going to get a check for $1,200. There is a phase out above 75,000 for individuals that over time the amount that you would be getting will phase out. If you file for your 2019 taxes, it's going to go right into your checking account. They should expect it within the next 3 weeks or so. That's what the anticipation is. A typical family of 4 is going to get 2,400 plus 1,000. A typical family of 4 is going to get about 3,400. I said thousand. Sorry, $3,400 because you're getting 1,200 for each party, and then each child will give you a $500 subsidy. So perfect example for that is if it's a mother and a father and 2 children, you can expect $3,400 to come out within the next 3 weeks or so. Those individuals that fall under the radar, maybe you don't have a checking account, you didn't have a banking account, or you did not file for taxes and they don't have your data or information, because not everybody is designed to or be set up with the banking system. They're working on a methodology to ensure they get the money, but it's going to be more challenging for them to get it, especially if they have to mail a check. So it is not the best that America can do, but this is what is transpiring now.
And that's just one time? That's not monthly, is it?
It's not.
Some countries are giving family monthly checks.
There are countries that are paying 90% of. There are countries that's giving a subsidy of $2,000 until class is over. America is giving a one-time $1,200 per person check, and that is unfortunate.
Oh my gosh! For a family of 4, $1,200?
Well, that family of 4 would get $3,400 as a one-time, and that really still isn't anything.
They, because everybody still has to pay rent and mortgages.
Right.
Regardless.
That's actually, if I had an opportunity to talk to administration, I thought the best way of helping families ease the level of anxiety would have been to do something that dealt with rent and mortgage, sort of giving rent grants and mortgage grants, to ensure that people are not, although we have, memorandums from city to city and state to state that says you cannot get evicted at this time or you can't go into foreclosure at this time. I think one-time grants paying those levels of benefits for all individuals would have been a better option and a better use of money. But unfortunately, I'm just one voice.
Well, I think there's going to be an outcry of many voices as we move forward into this. But I just don't see how, you're going to pay your rent, feed your family, and do all that, especially when both parties were working. If there were 2 parties, coming in with checks, and that's going to be quite an adjustment.
It is going to be challenging, and so we're very prayerful, for all of the individuals out there struggling. But these financial challenges everyone is facing, we don't know how deep the pain or the cut or the wound is going to be. So I do want to say this for those of you that found yourself quickly unemployed, particularly for those that have been gig employees, meaning that you're entertainers or your work level is predicated upon Uber or subsidies, and or industries such as that, and the restaurant industry was hit extraordinarily hard as well. What I can say is we don't really know where it is that we're standing now, but before all of this transpired, the underlying foundation of the economy was strong. I'm hopeful, and depending on what it is that we do, if we can get this health crisis under control, that the market itself may have a bounce back. It's going to take a while to recover. Let me just be totally upfront with everyone. It's going to take a while to recover. However, because of the strength of the economy prior to this happening, it may take less time than something like this typically happens. Prior to, we had some level of foundation, and I'm hopeful that this will help ease some level of anxiety and concern so that America can get back to work again moving forward.
Yeah, because if the people don't have money, the economy is going to be affected. Businesses are going to be affected because there's no money spending and rotating, right? I mean, exactly. Out there through, because, thinking about healthcare, all these things, they'll still be able to have their health care, even if their employers are not taking, like monthly
Well, no,
payments.
no. Let me just do some level of clarification. If someone was terminated or laid off from their position, the challenges that are yet to be defined or addressed is the fact that healthcare is oftentimes connected to employment. And so, if you're unemployed, then you now have a new healthcare issue that needs to be addressed. And so, we've yet to deal with that. However, this stimulus or relief bill that has recently been signed in the last week is designed for employers to keep their employees, up to 90% of their employees gainfully employed. And so the loans that are given to small businesses, there's different portions of the money that has been allocated. For small business owners like myself, as long as I keep my employees, on my books, then that which was originally a small business loan will become a forgivable grant. If I keep my employees for X amount of time. So whatever benefits my employees had, if I keep them on, then what they will do is they will allow that loan to ultimately become a grant. So I'm optimistic that many of the people will still maintain some level of being employed. That means people that are still sitting at home will be able to get a check or work from home remotely in some capacity or another, but it preserves the health insurance. I will say this, America, this issue here, this health crisis should show America why healthcare for everyone is essential, and it not being connected solely to an employer, that should not be the only option for individuals. So if we don't learn that invaluable lesson of where our health care needs to go, then shame on us as Americans, because health really does fundamentally impact our financial stability or lack thereof.
Yeah. So as it stands now, from what you know, that won't affect people who have been on disability. They will still get their checks because that's from the government related, right?
Right. And things like disability, those should not be interrupted at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know because, wow. And then we've got the educational system, the school system, and I'm optimistic myself as well, because this is new. They're just learning how to move along with this, so if it progresses, if it's, longer than maybe expected, they will go back
right.
and deal with another financial. So I don't want to, even make it appear on here like it's all gloom and doom, because it's not. Yeah.
They're already having a conversation about a fourth stimulus package. What that's supposed to look like, I have no idea, but they are having that level of conversation, because a one-time subsidy or stimulus check is really not going to make a profound impact on where it is. I think two things can come out of this, and I think that that will be helpful. One, America will be more self-reliant, because the majority of products, goods, and services have come from China. And so we are innovative by nature. And so I'm hopeful that the creative and creative ingenuity of Americans will come forth at this particular time, and American companies will become stronger and more relevant over time. So that's the first thing that I hope that happens. The second thing that I hope that happens is that we as a society at large will begin to recognize those individuals that are deemed essential workers now are deserving of higher level of income, because we are literally depending upon those individuals that work in the grocery stores, those individuals that are truck drivers, those individuals that are underemployed technically, are the ones that are keeping our shelves stocked so that we can get food, are the ones that are ensuring that whatever level of continuity of any way of life that we have, they're the ones that work. And unfortunately, they're making 13, 14, 10, 7, $8 an hour, and they should be able to have a livable wage. And so we can get those two conversations to be at the forefront where these employees are deserving of that. I think that America will move in the right direction. And what will happen is the wealth gap that continued to expand over the last 10 years in particular will begin to retract. And so there will be a greater opportunity for us to as the 99% individuals to be more financially sound and have greater opportunities for economic survival or stability overall.
You know, because this is a Christian talk show,
Yes, ma'am.
and I definitely, I definitely want to bring out that the Lord is a very present help
In the time of trouble. Yes, he is.
We had troubles in this country before, and as the scriptures say, blessed is the nation whose Lord is their God. There are enough believers in this country that are holding on to faith, that are touching and agreeing, and preparing us. I feel like this is kind of a preparation for something we should have been prepared for, being that we were warned about this some years ago. And if this had not happened, we would never be prepared. And because these kind of things, the way countries are growing, and I just happened to hear a speech that Bill Gates made in 2015 about our unpreparedness for this type of thing. And, you know, usually when someone like that speaks, who has contacts and, you know, relationships with people in all different areas, you know, of the economy, of the government, they know what's going to happen going on. And when they start stepping up and speaking and saying, hey, you know what, this is what we better do, and you don't do it, come on, you know what I mean? So, I mean, even if this was allowed to happen, it is a wake-up call for us to be prepared for another incident, because, you know, this country, yes, it is one of the wealthiest countries on the face of the earth, but we weren't as prepared. You know, and we have to start moving in that direction, because.
So can I indict the church just for a moment? Only
sure. As a pastor, as you also, so we give you that liberty.
And I just so happen, you know, and even though I have on my CFP lens and Harvest Wealth Financial, I am a pastor of Micah 7 Ministries in Piscataway.
It's not just Dr. Nicole B. Simpson, it's Reverend Dr. Nicole B.
And so, you know, there are some things that, from a biblical perspective, that we must adhere to in the Word of God. And so, I can't speak for other individuals, so I'm just going to talk about what has happened at Micah 7 Ministries. About 18 months ago, probably closer to 18 months to 2 years at this juncture, one of the things that the Lord began to reveal, and this is what, you know, we as intercessors, prophets, and, you know, individuals that are close to God began to reveal to us, is the essential need to store up. So there's 3 things that the Lord had given me at that time. This is about 18 months ago. And I'm saying this for a reason, because I have been on the record since 2016, September of 2016, about what would happen if President Trump was a reality. And so I studied it in 2016. And so this is what it is that I had shared with my clients going back that far, that the market would go up and the economy would be sound in 2016 and 2017. 2016, because the excitement of deregulation would transpire. What does that mean? That means that everything that President Obama had put into place after, you know, the market financial crisis of 2008, President Trump would repeal that. He ran off of that, so we knew that that was going to happen. So when he won, the market went up. The second thing that we knew was going to happen was that that he would put in a tax deal, and that he would cut taxes on a maximum level. So you knew that the market was going to go up in 2017 as well. But in 2016, 2017, I had begun to express this to individuals. In 2018, we began to talk about, you know, just the basics of supply and demand. Now, I'm going someplace with this, that when you continue to take out of the bank and you put nothing in the bank, at some point, the bank is going to be at a deficit. I'm keeping it as simple as possible
Yeah.
so that people will understand, okay? And so we knew that that was going to transpire eventually. And so I thought that the market was ultimately going to go down as a result of that. The other thing was that God had been saying and allowing us to read Joseph and his dreams. This is in 2018. And as we were reading it, I began to tell not only the congregation, but through the channels in which the Lord has allowed me to have, is that we needed to build up food. We needed to store things up because we were going to have a crisis. I did not know what it was going to be, but this is information. There were 3 areas in which we were told to get our affairs in order.
Wow.
Get food, get our finances in order, and get connected with family. Now, why am I saying this? The food shortage, we see what is transpiring. Before coronavirus hit up, we actually had where this particular president is repealing, and if this had not happened, in the month of April, there would be millions of people taken off of the SNAP program. So if churches and believers had not stored up food, there would be a more extraordinary food shortage for individuals. Again, this is all that I know that the Lord had been speaking across the board. In terms of getting your finances in order, he was telling us this is biblical principles. Biblical principles that lets us know and that, we must be good stewards over what God has entrusted us with. This is a responsibility that we have. And so, just being able to get your expenditures under control is something that we as believers should be doing anyway. For those that adhere to the principle of tithing, whether it be the Old Testament or the New Testament, I have been trained to teach individuals, I am a tither. So I'm going to say the 10-10-80 method. 10 to God, 10 to self, 80% to other individuals. That means that you are disciplining yourself to bring your expenses under control so that you are able to save and ultimately invest. The last thing was reconnection with families, which makes sense now because you have multiple generations living under one roof because expenses in the country overall, the average rent is $1,200 easily across the country. And so families have got to come together so that they can financially build as a family unit so that everyone would be fine moving forward. And so, yes, churches, we have a responsibility to not just congregate together on Sundays, but when those families are struggling, what can we as the body of Christ do? We can't do anything as the church if we ourselves are not practicing good stewardship individually and as a collective church.
Well, you know what? On that note, I'm that I was going to have you give some final remarks in there, but that concluded it. You put it all out there right in that. And I am so glad. Thank you. And I know, you have other stuff to get back to, but I sure appreciate you taking this time to help the viewers of the Well After Hours, kind of put things into perspective, get some hope so that, they're not too anxious for anything or, that this God is going to bring us through this too.
I want to leave with one scripture and everybody might remember it. David said, I was once young, but now I'm old, yet I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their seed begging bread. Keep your faith.
Well, thank you, Lord, and his word will stand forever. So
forever.
That. Well, Nicole and Dr. Simpson, thank you so much. And we're going to keep up with how things are going. So I know I'm going to come back to you again. Thank you so much for putting things into financial perspective for us, not just the church or the believers, but for everybody. But I particularly like it. And thank you. Thank the viewers of the Well After Hours. Thank you for hanging in there with us, and we're going to keep coming back to you even though we're kind of quarantined, we're kind of bunkered down too, but thank God for today's technology that we can keep things going. So thank you for being with us. Please remember every Thursday 7:30 p.m. the Well After Hours Facebook page, Beverly D. Allen, YouTube channel, Beverly D. Allen Ministries, and we pray that you are staying safe, stay well, but above all, stay in faith. God bless you. See you next time.